What's up, guys? It's the Retro Raider, and I'm back with another tier list video. Oh my God! And this time it's the God of War franchise. Um, I have some pretty wacky opinions. Just kidding. I'm pretty average when it comes to the opinions on these games. But um, but actually, I started playing God of War when I was like 12, but I never got far into it until I played the newest God of War, and then I went back and played every single God of War game. The only one I haven't finished is Ascension. I never beat that game. I actually don't even own it anymore, so I don't have like the biggest opinion on it. I didn't get very far, but yeah. So here is my opinion on the God of War franchise. Starting with number one. Unfortunately, God of War 1 is kind of rough. Looking back on it, the story's I mean, the story's good. I like the torment of Kratos. I think Kratos is as interesting and as deep of a mythological character as a lot of the other Greek or characters in Greek mythology. I think he fits right in. The fact that they wrote him into like a mythology is really interesting to me, and the way that they kind of reveal his backstory through flashbacks as the game goes on makes it like a really, I don't know, a really interesting game. I enjoy the story a lot. I enjoy like the quest for vengeance, but where the problems start, obviously like the gameplay hasn't been changed that much from the first game until the newest God of War. But unfortunately, it's not the greatest game, and the reason I would say is there's a lot of like goofy level designs. There's a lot of goofy puzzles that are just not really that well built and kind of drag the game. The amount of boxes you have to drag around, it just really tarnishes the experience. I don't know. Obviously, the other games have like box dragging and stuff like that, and tightrope walking and like all this goofy stuff. But unfortunately, it really plagues the first game. Although I love the gameplay, I love the combat, it's still amazing, but there's so many little flaws with the first game that kind of like really pissed me off as I played. Um, and yeah, I revisited it very recently, and they're still just as bad as I remember. And there's that one timing puzzle, and I don't exactly know how to describe it, like, but I see it in my head, and it took me hours and hours and hours, and it was like the stupidest thing. And I just cannot believe some of the parts of this game got past like QA. I think the boss fights are like pretty decent, especially the final boss fight was good against Ares. But the opening Hydra, I mean, it was decent. It was cool. It's a memorable fight, but like they're so deeply flawed, especially the second one. And I don't remember why I hate it so much or like why I hated it because I haven't gotten that far when I was replaying it recently. But just I don't know, man. And I obviously I sound like I absolutely hate this game, and I don't. I'm gonna just have to give it the 7 out of 10 treatment. So like I'll have to give it the C tier, even though it's like a super memorable game with like really good aspects and a really good story. But just something like some quirks in the level designs like make me so angry and like impatient. That like it's a struggle for me to get through. But I mean but yeah, it's like a 7 out of 10, unfortunately. But to change my tone completely, okay? Because I'm sure a lot of people are kind of mad that I put the first game so low. But to completely whip around and be like an insane man, I give God of War 2 the S tier. And like you probably be like, bro, why such a like huge divide in your opinion between one and two? And I like honestly can't exactly put my finger on it. But two has some of my favorite level designs in video game history. I don't exactly know why. Originally, I would have given this game like a 9 out of 10, but I replayed the whole way through, and this is a solid game, man. This is solid stuff. Like straight from the opening, where you fight that like I don't exactly remember what it's called. I'm sorry, but like that opening boss fights are already better than the Hydra, and then Zeus betraying Kratos was like an amazing cutscene, and then Gaia whips him out of the death, and then immediately you're on this quest to change back time. And what's so interesting about this game is that like every single person you come across is also trying to change the past. They're trying to get an audience with the Sisters of Fate, and that is so interesting to me. It's like the journey the journey to get to the Sisters of Fate is like such an interesting ride there because everybody has their own reasons in the mythology to want to change back time. And I don't know, the boss battles are like there's more of them and they're all better, like they're all more interesting. And yeah, like seriously, I think this the journey of the game is so much better than the first one because I didn't even bring up the first game had some really whack pacing where like half of the game is in Pandora's Temple, which was like decent, but like it was just like the whole game slows down. And although like the Athens is cool in the first game and the ending is really cool, there's just a lot of whatever. I'm done talking about God of War 1, but 2 has improved on that so much. And there's not even like too much like environmental variety, but just the sense of progression for me is absolutely spectacular. The combat's amazing, the flow, even like the secondary weapons, which aren't nearly as useful. I still like had a lot of fun experimenting with like switching weapons and stuff. And the story is probably, yeah, I mean, I think the newest God of War has the best story, but it's so interesting. And obviously, there's the plot hole with like time travel. Why didn't he just go back to his wife, to like before he killed his wife and daughter? But like, honestly, in that blind fight for vengeance, it is so sick. Like, oh my God, just those boss fights and him changing back time to fight Zeus again, and then literally the way it sets up the third game is so good. Like I have like almost no problems with the game. And after especially after like coming back to it recently, like I don't think I'm blinded by like time passing by. I genuinely believe this game is like a complete masterpiece. It has taken like everything from God of War 1 that worked and just expanded upon everything, made the platforming and puzzles better, and like I cannot think of a flaw other than like maybe the secondary weapons aren't as interesting as the chain as the Blades of Chaos, my bad. But I mean the way it sets up God of War 3, the opening of God of War 3 is literally like just I don't even know how to describe it. It's spectacular. Like the experience is wonderful. I honestly could not describe it to you. You have to play God of War 2 and 3, and yeah, man, you just have to. And unfortunately for God of War 3, I think the story isn't as good. I mean, it's so cool. The spectacle is amazing. The story just isn't as good. It's a shorter game, definitely. I just think the beginning of the end, or in the beginning and the end of the game, is like perfection, like gaming perfection at its finest. 100%. The opening's insane, and the fight with Poseidon and Gaia and like oh my God. And the game itself is a lot of fun. I think it definitely has the best gameplay with the weapon switching. I really like the alternate weapons and the boss fights are the best in the franchise. But the journey itself isn't as interesting for me. Like I think the feeling of like I don't know. I don't think it's like as well paced, but it's also it doesn't really have to be just because of like the spectacle and like finishing the trilogy. And I'm not gonna lie, that fight with Zeus was nuts, and just him like killing himself to stop Athena from gaining power is a really 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 excellent ending to the trilogy. And just because I don't think I like it as much as the second one, I'm like I really like the second one. Obviously, I don't know why. I like it so much, but I'm gonna give this one A tier just because of like the way it finishes the trilogy. But looking back on it, I think God of War 2's level design and like enemy variety is probably my favorite. But 3 has the best gameplay and the best spectacle. Now I'm gonna go straight to Ghosts of Sparta. My bad. So this is kind of like a PSP game. So, actually I'll do the first one first because that one was made first. But the first PSP game is pretty decent. It's a decent game. I enjoy playing it. Uh, like probably the shortest of the franchise, and I don't know. It's not that memorable. It's got like a decent story that was kind of rushed through with a lot of plot holes, in my opinion. But it's also a PSP game, so like what they did with the like franchise to port it over to PSP and have it be as fun as it is really cool. But I'm gonna just give it B tier. I mean, the fact that I'm saying that's better than the original God of War is like kind of like a stretch, and maybe I'm gonna have to give God of War B tier. because maybe I was just being too harsh on it. There's a lot of things that pissed me off about it, but the fact I think God of War One's gameplay like really sets up the entire franchise pretty well. So I can't give it any lower than like a B. Okay, despite how angry I was. So yeah, I'm gonna give yeah both of them a B. I think Chains of Olympus is probably the least memorable of the original franchise. It's still a good game. It's especially for PSP. But Ghost of Sparta actually is actually a really good game, and I haven't played it recently, so I don't know why I'm ranking it so high. Actually, I'm a probably put it B tier. I don't know. I'm giving. Well, I guess these are all handheld games, but I like honestly, I really like Ghost of Sparta. It's like it's pretty short, but it literally just feels like God of War 2 on the go, and the story's a little bit better um, with him meeting his brother Demos and like that kind of backstory. And I actually do remember a lot because I played it through the night before I had to get like all four of my wisdom teeth taken out. So like it's just a memorable game. And yeah, it's definitely it's probably not good enough to be A tier, but I actually really enjoyed it. I think it was fun, especially for a PSP game. I haven't played enough God of War Ascension. Uh, so like I don't know. I definitely haven't played enough God of War Ascension to give it like a full opinion. But I don't know, man. It's kind of lacking a little bit. I kind of remember it lacking like story wise. Um, but at the same time, like it's still God of War, right? It's still like a good game, and I don't remember it that well. I haven't even gotten that far into it, so I'm gonna give it a C, but a pretty like undefined C, just because it's probably the weakest. But like, and by this point, a lot of people had fatigue with the franchise. Even the developers had like a lot of fatigue with the gameplay style. So like, it's not the most inspired game or whatever. I don't know. It's good. It's just I'd have to play it through like all the way through to give it like a better opinion. But just yeah. But that kind of leads me to God of War 2018, and I don't even know why. Because the God of War 2018 has like a lot of flaws. To be perfectly honest, it's not a perfect game, but I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. I think that yeah, 100% the story is the best. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think the story is spectacular with Atreus and the what they did with Kratos to make it like make him more human. It's such an interesting and natural progression from the first game to like the most recent game of what they did to this character to humanize him. And it's such an interesting take on this character. It's enthralling to me. I don't think it has enough boss battles. Obviously, I don't think a lot of people are pretty against the new gameplay style, but I actually really love the new gameplay. Um, for different reasons than the originals. It's like more slower. It's like more weighty. It's not it doesn't feel like an arcade game as like the originals. I feel like it feels more like Last of Us, which a lot of people don't like, but I actually didn't mind it. I enjoyed it a lot. I love the combat, especially when you get the blades of chaos or blades of exile, my bad. Um, in with the axe. Definitely the best weapons. I think the axe is nuts. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know how they made it such an interesting weapon as well as it like a tool to traverse the environment. I really like the Lake of Nine with all the stories they tell. And like the side missions which aren't as interesting as the main story, but like they kind of like flush the game out more. Um, I don't know. Obviously, like the RPG system is pretty like surface level. It's not that crazy. It's not that like satisfying, but it also doesn't take much away. I just kind of play the game how I want to and to my liking, and so obviously it doesn't like insanely affect the experience one way or another. But like it's not a bad inclusion. And Atreus, like the special abilities he has with the bow and like his character arc and pretty much all the characters I think are like the best in the franchise. Faye, how she plays into like the overbearing mother, and how that affects Baldur. I think, bro, the Baldur boss fight in the beginning of the game is probably one of my favorite boss fights, if not my favorite boss fight of all time. And it's more cinematic than like actual gameplay, but like the spectacle is probably like my favorite boss fight of all time. I don't know why exactly, but it's just something about it is so good. And it's probably definitely one of my top five, top three favorite games. I even have a poster of it right above my bed in my room. And it's just, yeah, man, I don't know what they did. They took such a big risk on this game, and it 100% became my favorite game of the franchise without a doubt. And a lot of people disagree, and I 100% don't blame you. But just the experience of playing it is like unmatched for me. Also, yeah, like I said with God of War 2, I think the journey of the game is really, really good. Yeah, man, amazing story, amazing writing. And although it doesn't have enough boss fights and there's a couple flaws with like how the RPG system and some of the level design and stuff like that, I think it's all like budgetary stuff. And that's why I'm really excited for Ragnarok because like with full creative potential, I don't know how good Ragnarok will be compared to the newest God of War or like 2018 one, but I have a lot of faith in these developers, and God of War definitely has become one of my favorite franchises. Despite a couple of rough outings, a couple of decent outings, just 2 and 3 and the newest God of War have cemented to be some of my favorite games of all time. And for that, like I will never forget these games. I feel like a lot of people throw the original trilogy under the wayside. And yeah, I mean, in my opinion, God of War 1 isn't like that special of a game to play because of just how many little things that really make me mad. But none of the other God of War games have like ever had remade that mistake. Obviously, Ascension wasn't like an interesting game, wasn't a memorable game, and Blades of Olympus was also like an early PSP title. So like they I don't know, it's not as good as the first God of War, but 2 and 3 and the newest God of War is are yeah 100% some of my favorite games. Amazing spectacle, amazing music. I don't think any of the God of War games have a bad score. Just man, Zeus and Baldur and like all like these amazing villains. I think God of War 3 had, I don't know, it's so cool with like the fact that you just kill all these people or kill all these gods in like one day and destroy the entire planet, the entire realm. I don't know, man. I couldn't even put it into words, but please go out there and play it yourself. Play God of War 2 and 3 if you haven't. I mean, a lot of people have 100% played God of War. I think it's one of like the best-selling PS4 games. But yeah, please play God of War 2 and 3 somehow. I don't know if you have to emulate it, whatever. But these games are not even like I don't know. Man, I don't know. Just play them, please. Especially like God of War 2 to 3 is just man, I don't even know, man. Just go out and play those games. They're so good. And this is probably my worst tier list video. I don't know why, but whatever, man. Enjoy your guys' day. And yeah, peace out. Love you all. It's the Restorator.